Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive?
Let's do it.
We're tackling Atomic Habits today.
Yeah, one of my favorite books.
Mine too. And we're going way beyond the surface here, folks. We're not just summarizing, we're dissecting. We're talking about the nitty-gritty of how habits really work, why that whole just try harder thing often backfires.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like that saying, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Right. Sometimes you need a whole new approach. And that's where Atomic Habits comes in.
It's all about those tiny changes, those little adjustments that seem insignificant on their own.
But they add up, like compound interest, right?
Exactly. It's like that ice cube analogy.
Okay.
Clear uses, you can blast an ice cube with heat, but it's not going to melt instantly. You need to hit that critical point, the 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and then boom, sudden transformation.
Okay, I'm loving this analogy already. So you're saying it's not that our efforts are useless in those early stages, it's that we often give up right before the magic happens.
Often, yes. Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential, and it's a game changer once you understand it. Think about it. Those overnight successes we hear about, they're rarely actually overnight. There were likely years of consistent, often invisible effort leading up to that moment.
It's like building a brick wall. You need every single brick, even if you can only see the full impact at the very end.
I like that. And each brick, each small step you take, it's not just about the action itself. It's about who you're becoming in the process.
It's about identity.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about deciding who do I want to be and then acting accordingly. Every time you choose the salad over the burger, you're casting a vote for the healthy, disciplined person you want to be.
It's like you're telling your brain, hey, I'm serious about this whole healthy living thing.
And your brain listens. Remember, neurons that fire together wire together.
Oh, right. Clear talks about that, how our brains are literally rewiring themselves based on our habits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like carving a path through a forest. The more you walk that path, the more defined it becomes, the easier it is to follow.
So if you want to write a book, even just writing a paragraph a day can make a difference. Not just in terms of word count, but in actually changing your brain, your identity.
Precisely. You start to see yourself as a writer, and that belief fuels future action. It all starts with that first step.
So how does Clear break down the actual mechanics of building these habits? I know he talks about the habit loop.
It's a simple but powerful framework for understanding how habits work. There are 4 stages: cue, craving, response, reward.
Okay, break that down for me. What does that look like in real life?
Picture this. You're scrolling through social media, you see a notification pop up, that's your cue.
Okay, I'm hooked already. What's next?
The craving kicks in, that urge to check, to see what the notification is. Then comes your response. You unlock your phone, tap the app. And finally, the reward. That little hit of satisfaction, of curiosity satisfied, of knowing you didn't miss anything. And here's a really cool part. Each of those stages, that cue, craving, response, reward, they're like levers we can push on to change our habit. Yeah.
Okay, I'm all about finding leverage. So how do we make those good habits more, enticing? Because who wants to force themselves to do something they hate, right?
Right, exactly. It's about working with our brains, not against them. Remember those dopamine spikes?
Yeah.
It's not just about experiencing the reward itself, but the anticipation leading up to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like knowing there's a delicious smoothie waiting for me after my workout helps me actually get to the gym in the first place.
Exactly. Your brain gets a little preview of the reward and it's like, yes, let's do that again. So the more we can amplify that anticipation, the more we wire our brains to crave the habit itself, not just the outcome.
Not just the destination, but the journey too.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we make those habits more appealing in the moment?
Well, one strategy Clear talks about is temptation bundling, and it's pretty genius.
Temptation bundling. Okay, I've never heard of that. Tell me more.
So you take something you need to do, maybe it's something you've been putting off.
Oh, I've got a whole list of those.
And you link it to something you want to do.
Okay, so what kind of things are we talking about here? Give me an example.
Okay, let's say you need to clean the house. Not the most exciting task for most people, but you love listening to your favorite podcast.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right, so you only allow yourself to listen to that podcast while you're cleaning.
Suddenly, cleaning the bathroom doesn't sound so bad.
Exactly. You're tricking your brain into associating something you enjoy with something you've been avoiding. It's like sneaking in vegetables with mac and cheese.
I love it. It's all about strategy, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of strategy, we can't forget about the power of our environment.
Oh, our environment plays a huge role, for sure. I know I'm way more likely to snack on junk food if it's staring me down from the pantry.
Exactly. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Claire talks about how even small changes, like rearranging your fridge so the healthy options are front and center, can make a big difference.
It's like you're setting yourself up for success before you even have to make a decision.
Exactly. And it's not just about our physical environment. Our social environment matters too.
Oh, absolutely. We tend to mirror the behaviors of those around us.
Right, which is why it's so important to surround ourselves with people who support our goals. But it's interesting. Claire talks about this study about heroin addiction during the Vietnam War and how a lot of soldiers who were addicted actually found it easier to quit once they returned home.
Wait, really? That's counterintuitive. You'd think being back in a familiar environment would make it harder to break those habits.
You would think. But in Vietnam, everything was a cue for drug use. The stress, the easy access, their social circles. Back home, those cues disappeared, and so did a lot of the addictive behavior.
Wow, that's powerful. It's like a whole different perspective on the nature of addiction and habits in general.
Yeah.
It's not just about willpower. It's about understanding the cues and triggers that drive our behavior.
And then taking control, designing our environment to support the choices we want to make. That's so empowering. But I have to admit, even when I'm motivated and I've decluttered my entire house, sometimes just starting a new habit feels daunting.
It can be, especially if we're trying to do too much too soon.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm the queen of I'll start Monday, and then, life happens.
It happens to the best of us. That's where the 2-minute rule comes in handy.
Big minute rule.
It's all about breaking down any new habit, no matter how big or small, into a 2-minute version. So instead of saying, I'm going to run a marathon, you start with, I'm going to put on my running shoes.
That seems almost too easy.
That's the point. You want to make it so easy that you can't say no. You're tricking your brain into getting started.
I like.
Because once you've taken that first step, it's much easier to keep going.
So it's not about doing everything perfectly on day one. It's about building that initial momentum.
You got it. You're not just building a habit, you're building a belief in your ability to follow through, a sense of self-efficacy.
And that belief fuels future action.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like those first few steps are always the hardest, but once you get going, it's easier to stay in motion. But how do we stay motivated over the long haul? I mean, life happens, we get busy, we get discouraged. Are there any tricks to making those new habits stick?
Absolutely. Motivation isn't some magical quality you either have or you don't. It's something you cultivate. And one of the simplest but most effective ways to do that is through habit tracking.
So like marking off a calendar or using one of those habit tracking apps.
Exactly. It seems almost too simple to be effective, but there's something so satisfying about visually seeing those days stack up. It's like a visual representation of your progress, and those small wins, they really do add up. Plus, our brains love patterns and rewards, and habit tracking taps into both.
Oh, I totally get that. Seeing those streaks build up in my workout app keeps me way more accountable than I'd be otherwise. It's like a little game I play with myself.
Exactly. And it's not just about tracking the habit itself, it's about tracking your identity. It's about proving to yourself that you're the kind of person who follows through. You're not just building a habit, you're building a track record.
So how else can we boost our chances of success? What about finding an accountability partner?
Having that external support can make a world of difference. Someone who gets your goals, who can offer encouragement when you need it, who can give you a gentle nudge when you're slipping up.
Yeah, like a workout buddy who drags you out of bed on those mornings when you'd rather hit snooze.
Exactly. Or even just a friend you check in with regularly to share your progress. And Claire takes this concept a step further with the idea of a habit contract.
A habit contract. That sounds serious.
It can be. It's basically a formal agreement you make with yourself and often with your accountability partner, outlining your commitment to a particular habit and the consequences for not following through.
Consequences. Tell me more.
Well, it can be anything that truly motivates you to stay on track. Claire talks about this entrepreneur, Brian Harris, who used a habit contract to help him lose weight. He set very specific targets for his diet and exercise, and if he missed those targets, there were financial consequences, like he'd have to pay his personal trainer, sometimes even his wife.
Wow, putting your money where your mouth is.
Right. And it worked. Those immediate costs for bad habits made it much harder to justify giving in to temptation. It's a powerful way to up the ante and create a system that supports your success.
So we've talked about small changes, the habit loop, making habits more appealing, the importance of environment, the 2-minute rule, habit tracking, rewards, accountability partners, even habit contracts. My brain is full.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, is there anything about which types of habits are easier or harder for people to form?
That's a great question. Clear talks about how our personality, even our genetics, can play a role in what habits work best for us. It's not one size fits all. He uses this concept of explore, exploit. In the beginning, it's about exploring different options, experimenting with different habits to see what clicks for you, what feels good, what you can stick with.
It's like trying on different hats until you find one that fits.
Exactly. And then once you've found those habits that really resonate, that feel aligned with who you are and what you want, that's when you focus on exploiting them, mastering them, really integrating them into your life.
So it's not about following some generic list of good habits. It's about self-discovery, figuring out what works for you as an individual.
Absolutely. But keep in mind, even with the right habits, we're all human. We all experience boredom. We all face those days when motivation is low. It happens. And one thing that can help is incorporating what Clear calls variable rewards.
Variable rewards. Okay, I've never heard of that before.
It's just about introducing novelty to keep things interesting, to prevent that feeling of monotony. So instead of running the same road every day, try a new trail. Or if you're learning a language, watch a movie in that language instead of just doing flashcards.
Oh, I like that. So it's about bringing a sense of playfulness, of exploration to those habits.
Exactly. Make it fun. And finally, one of the most important things Clear emphasizes is the importance of reflection.
Taking the time to step back and see what's working and what's not.
Exactly. We need to regularly review our habits, see if they're still serving us, and make adjustments as needed. It's not a set it and forget it thing. It's about continuous improvement.
Always learning, always growing.
Exactly. Just like we're doing right now.
So true. This has been such a fascinating deep dive into the world of atomic habits. It's really got me thinking about my own habits in a whole new light.
Me too. It's not about willpower or discipline. It's about understanding the science behind how our minds work and using that knowledge to create positive change.
It's about those small, seemingly insignificant actions, those atomic habits, that compound over time to create remarkable results.
And anyone listening can do it. Pick one small thing, start today, and let the magic of atomic habits transform your life.
You've got this. And on that note, we'll wrap up today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration into the world of self-improvement.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.